I'm about to show you something insane. It's 1683, and the city of Vienna is about to be completely wiped off the map. 250,000 Ottoman soldiers have surrounded the city, and they've been attacking nonstop for 2 straight months. The city's walls are literally crumbling. There's no food left. People inside are starving, and kids are just drinking water to feel full. The last 20,000 soldiers defending the city are so exhausted they re-chewing on leather just to stay awake. And you have to understand, if Vienna falls, the entire continent of Europe is next. The road to Paris and London would be wide open. It's the ultimate final stand. And just when they were about to give up, on the morning of September 12th, something unbelievable appeared on a hill above the city. This thing didn't just win the battle. It ended the entire war in under an hour. You are not going to believe what it was. The Ottomans weren't just trying to capture one city. They wanted to conquer all of Europe. This wasn't a small fight. This was for the whole continent. The Ottoman Sultan literally promised his top general, Kara Mustafa, that he could rule all of Central Europe if he took Vienna. The stakes could not get any higher. Inside Vienna, it was absolute chaos. The city's commander, Count von Starhemberg, knew they were probably going to die. He wrote a final letter to the world that said, "If we perish, let Europe know we bought her time." Can you believe that? And get this. West of the city, every church rang its bells for 3 days straight. It was a giant, desperate alarm bell telling everyone that Europe was about to fall. We need help now? But nobody was coming to help. The King of France basically said, "Not my problem," because he was busy with his own plans. Meanwhile in Rome, the Pope knew how bad this was. He was literally on his knees praying in St. Peter's Square and sending desperate messages to the only person he thought could save them, the King of Poland. He knew if Vienna fell, it was game over for Catholic Europe. The future was hanging by a thread, and that thread was about to snap. This is where it gets crazy. The city was so desperate, they sent a single monk on an impossible mission. This guy literally crawled through the city's disgusting sewers to escape. Then he jumped into a freezing cold river and swam for his life, all to deliver one letter. And this wasn't just any letter. It was written in blood, and it said, "Come, or Vienna becomes the gateway of the Crescent." To deliver this letter, this monk rode 4 horses to death. He literally rode them until they collapsed, one after another, racing across hundreds of miles to get to Poland. That's how much this mission mattered. He was running on pure adrenaline, trying to save a continent. When the letter finally got to the King of Poland, the 54-year-old John III Sobieski, a king who had already fought in 23 battles, he didn't just read it. He kissed the seal, then turned to his wife and said one of the most epic lines in history, "I will ride, or Europe dies while I watch." This is like something out of a movie. And Poland listened. In just 6 days, they put together an insane army of 27,000 cavalrymen, with thousands of wagons of supplies. And among them was a special unit of soldiers who wore something crazy on their backs, eagle feathers. They were coming. So, what was this secret weapon? They were called the Winged Hussars, and they are one of the most incredible armies in all of history. Forget what you see in paintings. This was way more terrifying. Picture 3,000 of the most elite soldiers ever, riding giant horses and wearing actual leopard skins. And their lances were insane. 15-foot-long spears made of solid wood, designed to punch right through armor like it was nothing. But the craziest part was their wings. They attached giant wooden frames with real eagle and swan feathers to their backs. And when thousands of them charged at once, the wind roaring through the feathers made this terrifying, supernatural sound. Ottoman riders who saw it swore it sounded like the beating of angels' wings come to punish the faithful. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be? Today, you'd call this psychological warfare. For the Hussars, it was just how they fought. They had lighter armor, which made them super fast, and they were trained to be a shock force that could break any army. Their one job was to hit the enemy with so much force, both physically and mentally, that the battle would be over instantly. They were the ultimate heavy cavalry. They were a secret weapon. Now, the Ottoman commander, Kara Mustafa, wasn't an idiot. He knew a relief army was probably coming. But what he thought was absolutely impossible was that a giant army of cavalry could ever cross the Vienna woods. The terrain was insane, narrow paths, super steep hills, and giant rocks everywhere. His own scouts came back and told him the area was fit only for goats and ghosts. He was sure it couldn't be done. Huge mistake. He left the main ridge, the Kahlenberg Heights overlooking the city, almost completely undefended. He was so confident no commander would be crazy enough to even try it. But King Sobieski wasn't just crazy, he was a genius. At 4 a.m., in total darkness, the Polish army started doing the impossible. They literally started building a road. They chopped down massive trees and laid them across the mud and rocks to create a path for the cavalry. The Ottoman guards down below heard the sounds, but they just thought it was thunder. They had no idea an entire army was building a highway right above them. By dawn, 18,000 cavalry, Poles, Austrians, and Germans, had done the impossible. They were standing on top of the hill, looking down at the massive, unsuspecting Ottoman army camp. They had achieved total, complete surprise. The stage was set for one of the biggest comebacks in history. The sun was just coming up. At 5:30 a.m., King John III Sobieski raised his sword, said a quick prayer in Latin. "Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory." It was a prayer and a battle cry. Gravity did the rest. What happened next was the largest cavalry charge in history. They were charging down a 35-degree slope. This wall of 18,000 men and horses was 4 kilometers wide. Imagine seeing thousands of winged soldiers on giant horses thundering down a mountain straight at you. It's over. The elite Ottoman soldiers, the Janissaries, tried to form their defensive squares, but you can't stop this kind of force. The charging horses were so committed they would impale themselves on spears just to break the line. The momentum was unstoppable. Witnesses said the Hussar lances would punch straight through one soldier and kill the guy standing behind him. Broken lances flew everywhere, becoming deadly projectiles. The entire Ottoman line just shattered. The center of the army completely collapsed. In less than 15 minutes, the battle was basically over. The Ottoman commander, Kara Mustafa, who had promised his sultan a continent, ran away so fast he left everything behind. His treasure, his ceremonial cloak, even his official seal of command. He just fled, leaving his army to be destroyed. By noon, the Ottoman flag that had flown over Vienna for 2 months was being trampled in the mud. By nightfall, the valley was covered with the bodies of over 20,000 Ottoman soldiers. It was a complete and total defeat. The abandoned Ottoman camp had so much treasure and supplies, it even had a new thing called coffee beans, which would change Europe forever. And here's another crazy fact. Back in Vienna, the city's bakers wanted to celebrate. So they invented a new pastry and shaped it like the crescent on the Ottoman flag. That's right, they invented the croissant just to make fun of the army they had just defeated. King Sobieski, in a letter to his wife, summed it all up. "We came, we saw, God conquered." The ultimate flex. Europe, which had been holding its breath, could finally breathe again. This one battle was so decisive that the Ottoman Empire never seriously threatened Central Europe again. It was the beginning of the end for them. Within 16 years, a treaty forced them to give up huge territories they had conquered. And the winged Hussars, those incredible warriors, became legends. They never again charged with that many men at once, because they never had to. The world was changing, but on that one day, they were the most powerful force on the planet. If you think this is one of the craziest rescues in history, then subscribe right now. We tell insane stories like this all the time, and you do not want to miss what we have coming up next. So the next time you eat a croissant, just remember this insane battle. Remember the 18,000 winged lancers who charged down a mountain, not just to break an army, but to shatter an empire. The Ottomans had everything. More soldiers, more cannons, more everything. But Vienna had something better. It had faith, feathers, and the fastest, most terrifying horses in Europe. That, my friends, was the secret weapon.